Welcome back to Strides to Solutions. I'm Esther Adams, and in this episode, we continue our series on compassion fatigue in animal caretaking. In our last session, we explored what compassion fatigue is and why it is so common among people who care for animals. Today, we are going to take a closer look at the signs and symptoms, how to recognize compassion fatigue in yourself or others, and introduce one of the most widely used tools for identifying it, the professional quality of life. Compassion fatigue often begins subtly. It can show up as frustration, tiredness, or a sense that everyday tasks feel heavier than usual. Over time, these small signs may grow into more serious concerns, such as irritability, emotional numbness, or mood swings. People who once felt joy in their work with animals may find themselves dreading tasks that used to be meaningful. This loss of satisfaction is not unusual. It is one of the hallmark features of compassion fatigue. The symptoms are not only emotional, but also physical. Caretakers often report fatigue, headaches, changes in sleep patterns, or tension in their bodies. They may rely more heavily on caffeine, sugar, or other stimulants to push through the day. At the same time, compassion fatigue can influence relationships. Some people begin to withdraw from family, friends, or coworkers, feeling too exhausted to connect or worried about being a burden. In the workplace, this withdrawal can create conflict or reduce teamwork, especially in high stress environments like shelters or clinics, where cooperation is vital. Professionally, compassion fatigue may show up as declining job satisfaction or a desire to leave the field altogether. Some individuals feel disillusioned, wondering whether their work is making a difference. Others may begin to emotionally distance themselves from the animals in their care as a way to cope. While this distancing might feel protective, over time it reduces attentiveness and compassion, which in turn can affect animal welfare. Recognizing these patterns early is essential because they can be reversed with awareness and support. One of the best ways to identify compassion fatigue in a structured and reliable way is through the Professional Quality of Life Scale. This is a 30-item questionnaire developed by Dr. Beth Hudnall Stam. It is one of the most widely used tools for measuring both the positive and negative effects of working in a helping profession. The scale is not a diagnostic test, but rather a self-assessment tool that helps people reflect on their own experiences. The Professional Quality of Life Scale measures three main areas. The first is compassion satisfaction, which captures the positive feelings of doing your work well, such as the joy of helping animals and seeing them recover or thrive. The second is burnout, which measures exhaustion, hopelessness, or feeling trapped in your role. The third is secondary traumatic stress, which reflects the stress that comes from exposure to the trauma of others, such as witnessing animal suffering, hearing distressing stories, or repeatedly being involved in euthanasia decisions. Each of the 30 questions asks respondents to rate how often they experience certain feelings or thoughts, using a scale from never to very often. For example, questions that measure compassion satisfaction include items like, I get satisfaction from being able to help others, or I feel invigorated after working with those I help. Questions that reflect burnout include, I feel overwhelmed because my caseload seems endless, or I feel I am not as productive at work because I am losing interest in what I am doing. Finally, questions related to secondary traumatic stress include items such as, I feel depressed because of the traumatic experiences of the people or animals I help, or I think that I might have been affected by the traumatic stress of those I help. Once completed, the Professional Quality of Life Scale provides scores in each of the three categories. A high score in compassion satisfaction suggests resilience and fulfillment in the role. A high burnout score signals that the individual may be struggling with exhaustion and disillusionment. A high score in secondary traumatic stress indicates that exposure to suffering is having a significant emotional impact. The combination of these scores gives caretakers and organizations valuable insight into the well being of their staff, and it can highlight areas where support is most needed. Understanding and using the professional quality of life scale matters because it helps people put language to their experiences. Caretakers may not always recognize that their irritability, fatigue, or detachment are connected to compassion fatigue. By answering structured questions, they can see patterns more clearly and validate what they are going through. Just as importantly, it opens up conversations in workplaces and volunteer groups about how common these experiences are and how they can be addressed. Recognizing compassion fatigue early allows for timely action. When caretakers understand what they are experiencing, they are more likely to implement coping strategies, seek supervision or peer support, and adjust workloads where possible. Normalizing compassion fatigue also reduces stigma. It reminds us that these reactions are not signs of weakness. They are natural responses to sustained stress and empathy. If you are experiencing symptoms of compassion fatigue, burnout, or emotional distress, please seek support from a qualified mental health professional. You don't have to navigate this alone. In our next episode, we will turn to practical strategies for resilience and balance. We will explore evidence based approaches for reducing compassion fatigue, from personal practices like mindfulness and self care to organizational strategies that create healthier, more sustainable environments for both people and animals. Thank you for joining me today on Strides to Solutions. If you work with or care for animals, this series is here for you. Please share this episode with a colleague, friend, or volunteer in your life, and join me next time as we learn how to care for ourselves while continuing to care deeply for the animals who rely on us.